if we're convinced God's leading our steps, and like we're daily giving ourselves to Him and saying, God, I trust you, I'm seeking you. Like scripturally, we have no other reason but to believe we're exactly where we're supposed to be. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Cloverhill Family Ministry Podcast. My name is Charles.
My name is Alyssa.
Shout out to my
I'm
wife.
Shay.
Sorry, Alyssa.
The
Sorry,
wife.
Shay.
No, that's good. I'm Shay Smith.
Yeah, and so October, Shay, why don't you tell us? We're doing something a little different this month. So tell us the thought, the idea, what we're going to be doing this month in October.
I
with
mean,
this podcast.
October, we're all thinking Halloween,
Ooh.
but we're doing our own spin. We're doing Whoa, That's Scary. And we have a
Yeah.
two-part series. Today, we're kicking it off with, ooh, that's scary, Real World Edition. We're talking about young adults
Yeah,
and getting into the real world.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and it's scary.
It is scary. It's a lot of commitment.
Yeah,
It's a lot of money. And I think there's a little hesitancy for our Gen Z millennials to enter into that new season.
no, for sure. I know when we were planning this out, Shay, you kind of shared with us some of the assumptions you had about what you think. You know, using some reasonable thinking, what you kind of imagine. I think it's pretty spot on. Why don't you share those things with us real quick? What you kind of thought those fears probably are.
Yeah, I think with young adults, there might be a little bit of a fear of a commitment to finances, a career,
Even, relationships, yeah.
relationship status, being locked down for your entire life. Those seem a little scary when you're coming out of high school and college.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think it's a good topic to dive into.
No, I think that too. I know we also talked about comparison being a fear.
Oh, I mean, Instagram,
Yeah.
we see everybody's highlight reels and they're living their best
And
life.
it's not that comparison isn't the fear itself, right? But it's more of what the comparison gives birth to. And then the fear is never making it, right? Never reaching
Sure.
that point
Right.
that the comparison is feeding, you know. So I think this is pretty spot on. So I want let's get some stats. Let's get some
Okay.
data here.
Yeah, tell us
Okay.
some real deal news here.
Yeah, I put my researcher hat on, and so like we said, we're talking. So millennials, just to give you guys a framework, Gen Z and millennial. When we're saying that, we're coming from the stance that Gen Z are those who are currently 11 to 26-year-olds. Okay, so again, that fresh young adult, 18 to 26. We're talking about you when we say Gen Z. And then millennials are the current 27 to 42-year-olds. Okay, so kind of us in that later half. I just made the cut for millennial. And so I want to read through this very, very interesting stuff that'll give us some good backing and context for talking about, again, this scary stuff that a lot of our young people, me included, are facing. And so this first survey I want to talk about, speaking of millennials, okay, this is the Emerging Markets Institute surveyed 16,000 millennials across the globe. And this is interesting. What they did find was that, so not a fear, 71% of millennials actually have a confident hope that they're going to enjoy a higher standard of living than their parents enjoyed, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
71% of millennials, again, 27 to 42-year-olds, have this high level of confidence and optimism that they will be better off than their parents were. Why do you, any idea why you guys think that is? I mean, it's interesting.
I mean, I think that kids are going to be, they're very aware of, they watch their parents and they watch how, maybe like if they come home from work and they hate their job, the kids are watching that and they're seeing. And the difference is maybe their parents, when they were kids, they wouldn't verbalize, but in the culture that we live in now, the kids are going to verbalize, I saw you hated your job, and I'm not going to do that. There's a little bit more of that, like, boldness. And they're not fearful. They may be fearful of some things. They're not fearful, I feel like, of speaking up.
True.
So maybe
good.
that's part of it.
Right.
It's just,
No, that's probably spot on.
Yeah.
So, 71%. I mean, you could be in that 71%, but millennials, we don't fear that we're gonna have a better life, but be better off than our parents. But here's the fear. For millennials, the central theme, the core of it seems to be a fear of stagnation. Not moving, being stuck. 40% of the millennials surveyed feared getting stuck with no development opportunities. So kind of being in a job where there's a lid, there's a cap, and kind of being stuck. 32% feared they wouldn't meet their career goals. Again, pretty similar to the lid concept.
Right.
And 32% feared that they wouldn't find a career that matched their personalities, which is an interesting fear.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, interesting.
Right.
Personalities, you know what I mean? Not that I fear I won't make enough. Because again, for whatever reason, there's confidence that we are going to make enough.
Right.
But the fear is it's not going to be a job that's a good fit for me.
Right.
You
But
know?
how do you know if it's a good fit until you kind of get
until you
out there
try
and
it.
start doing it?
Yeah. Yeah. So I do wonder how much that maybe hinders them from taking steps. So that's millennials. So now Gen Z, 11 to 26-year-old. Again, interesting. I like to start with the hopes, the dreams.
That's good.
So this
Start
was
us off high, Charles.
Yeah, this was a survey of Gen Zers in Australia. But again, with just the reality of globalization, I think this is pretty standard for all Gen Zers. 72% have a hope, a dream to one day own their own home. It's cool. 67 hope to have full financial freedom and independence.
That's great.
67% hope to excel in their career. And then this is where I think this is a big indicator. 66% hope to travel and see the world.
Sure.
And 65% hope to pursue interests and hobbies. So those last two, I think, are big indicators. When we move into the fears, 65% fear not having enough money to live comfortably. So let's stop right there. We're not talking about not being able to live,
But comfortably.
But comfortably, I think, is a very interesting term.
And
Comfortable to some people may mean one
I
thing, and to
know.
other people mean another too. So
100%.
that's
But
an interesting
I
word.
think if we ask Gen Zers and probably some millennials what comfortable means, I think it means being able to do what I want, when I want, travel and see the world. You know what I'm saying? Because these other fears tell us. So look, 61% being stuck in a job they don't enjoy. So it's pretty similar with millennials. Again, being somewhere that you don't actually have joy in, which is so different. I mean, I think if you ask previous generations, they could care less about. It's about, is this making money? Is it providing?
Is it providing?
But we're nowhere even near that anymore.
No, that's not even on the topic.
Not even on the topic, which is really interesting. 54% fear not reaching their full potential. Again, it's like, I don't know. Reading this kind of hits me in the face because it makes me think, am I living with like this, with this belief that I'm like this uncovered superstar? You get what I'm saying? And like, I need to be put in the right soil, the right spot, so then I can flourish and be all I was made to be and bless the world around me. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
I don't know. Does it not make you guys think that way? Like, wonder? Because that's, to me, that's what these stats are screaming.
Right.
It's a little scary. 48% fear not finding love. I mean, that's understandable.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that's not higher. I gotta be
Yeah,
honest.
but it's true. And 47% never being able to buy their own home, which again matches up with the dream. And last set of stats, guys, stick with me. In 2019, Experian did a survey of, again, Gen Zers. 51% of Gen Zers are afraid money issues will prevent them from doing what they want to do in life.
Right.
Again, another highlight right there, another link to a theme we're seeing.
What they're doing.
Yeah, 43% are afraid they won't earn enough money to be happy. Again, very subjective. Happy, I don't think, is living, having food on the table and enjoying a quiet life. I think it's, again, being able to do what you want. 37% feel pressure to compete with peers. 36% feel they'll never achieve financial security. 35% self-reported poor spending habits. 30% believe the system is set up for them to fail financially. So again,
like
there's a lot of focus on self through these stats.
Right.
I think is what we're seeing.
Oh, yeah.
Self and a lot of confidence that, again, we're going to be fine. And it's never, this is just my takeaway. I'm not the problem. Right?
The world has
the
created
world
this problem
is a problem.
for me.
And these jobs better get with it and create a sphere that's good enough for me to step in, and then I can blossom and be all that. And there's a random fact. This is just interesting. 90% of Gen Z are anxious about speaking on the phone and won't answer phone calls. 90%.
Do you think it's because we don't have house phones anymore?
I think so.
You know, I grew up answering the phone all the time.
Me
you
too,
know, the house phone rang, I got it. Now, these are wild stats.
Crazy.
Very self-centered.
Yeah, no, we can say that.
I mean, I'm not trying to say selfish, but there is a mentality of, hey, the world around me is not setting me up for success. And I think part of that, we look at college expenses, and it almost does seem like you're going into fail. You're already going to come out with $200,000 of debt, and then maybe for a major you don't even want to pursue after. So I think there's a healthy bit of caution among the younger people in this fear of, hey, I don't want to get tied down to debt and this and that, but there is a sense of missing out on a purpose greater than self of, hey, wait, what is the Lord calling me to? What is the Lord calling my life to look like? And I think there's a little bit of, I want instant gratification. I want it all, and I want it all right now.
And I think that right there, that last part is I want it all right now is big time. Big time. I'm sure too, I know for us, I mean, you know, we talk with lots of young adults and whether it's ministry,
this is your world.
Friends. Yeah,
right.
you know, we're doing it all the time.
Right.
And one thing that I think I can say confidently, I'm sure this is across just the board with young people, is for previous generations, and even for me coming out of college and going into the real adult world, it was just kind of an understood, like, it's about starting somewhere. Right. Like that first step, it's not going to be sexy. It's not going to be the job of your dreams. You know, like it's not going to be awesome, but like you got to get your foot in. You got to get a name for yourself, build a reputation, and work your way up.
Show up consistently.
Yeah.
With a grateful heart.
And all that was just kind of like understood.
Right. And with time.
Yeah. Like, the process.
And with effort.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
and all the things. Yeah.
But what's crazy is in this gap with young adults right now, it's kind of like this assumption again that it's like they're already awesome. We're not trying to hate on you guys. We're talking about the fears you struggle with, so we're gonna provide some hope. But it's this assumption that, you know, that first step has to be the step, and so they bypass,
or the only step.
Yeah, they bypass all of these opportunities that I know. If you were to again survey maybe some of these millennials who are a little farther, there are opportunities that we probably took or would take if we were in their shoes. But for these Gen Zers, it's almost like, no, like that's not good enough.
Right.
You know, that's not going to give me the life I want now. So I'm not going to do it. And there's like this huge disconnect. I think there's a big fear, and I just don't think they can catch. Like, man, doing that now is what gets you to where you want to be. And so, but we just know tons.
Yeah, Alyssa, you did a little survey of some friends.
Yeah. So we did a survey actually of people who come to Cloverhill, who fall in a little bit of both of these.
We will name names. I'm kidding.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
But
but yes, we did. And I wrote down some of the answers. A lot of them overlap. So we did some millennial, some Gen Z. So there's a mixture of both.
Perfect.
But I was going to read off a few that people responded. So big emphasis on money and financial stability. For the single people, a lot of them said for myself, and then for a family, it was more so from a perspective for my kids to be able to have the life that they want. Also, making a big emphasis on career and making the wrong career choice. That was over and over. Or for doing something and not liking what I'm doing.
You're saying Gen Z and millennial?
For both, but more Gen Z.
Wow.
And then also several about parenting. So my kids going away from God. Or realizing that I over-disciplined or under-disciplined my kids. Another one that fell into both categories, not living out my purpose, failing as a spouse, facing potential health complications, not having stability as a whole. And then also an interesting one, fear of my parents dying. That's more of millennials than Gen Z. Gen Z's probably not really thinking as much like that. And then my personal favorite was AI taking over all of our jobs.
I mean, so that might be accurate,
valid fear.
Actually.
That's going to happen.
So, yeah, super interesting to hear. It falls in line, I think, with a lot of the same things. Yeah, it matches the statistics for what we're learning as a whole for everybody.
Yeah. So again, interesting. A lot to do with security, stability, and reaching my potential.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's good.
And not getting stuck in something that's
not being stuck.
So how do we encourage these kids? I mean, like hearing this, I'm like, I agree. The over and under disciplining my children, and
I feel that.
My parents passing away, like those are starting to become fears. The older I get, less about the career stuff and the money stuff, because I have about 15 years past the like initial start point of all of those things.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to feel like, a little relief on I'm seeing my life really shape out. And I think I had a pastor growing up. He said, your 30s are so fun because a lot of the answers start to come to be.
Yeah.
So you're, a lot of your
Let that be an encouragement.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
it
isn't it?
Yeah.
Like a lot of your
it's true.
teens and your 20s, you're questioning like,
And you're figuring things out.
who am I going to marry?
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Where am I going to live? All of these questions, but your 30s are really a lot of unfolding of those answers. And that's the fun part of not being afraid of what's to come.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's just, like you said, that's good encouragement to know
Yeah.
that, it's just so hard, and I get it. Like I'm 27, so I lived through this not that long ago. I'm still living through a lot of these fears that we even shared. But I know when you're facing these things, like especially that first job, like benchmark, when you're out of college, or if you didn't do college but you're up against making that first career move, like it's super scary.
It is.
It's super scary, and it's so hard to see beyond the moment. But I think that's one of the biggest encouragements we can give you guys is you have to fight to see long term.
Perspective.
You gotta have
right. That's good,
perspective.
Charles. Yeah.
Listen to people who are farther than you've got to have for parents, if you're listening that you have kids that are in college right now, or even kids that are millennials a little farther along, your perspective, it matters. But just don't like, if we're not asking for it, don't give it.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. I'm trying to be kind when I say that. I think there's a lot of people who are, again, what is the generation before millennials? I can't even remember right now. It's okay.
Gosh, I don't know.
You guys know.
I mean,
Whoever you
we
are,
should know
the
this.
parents. You're the parents
Yeah.
of us. Parents of millennials, parents of Gen Zers. I know you guys have lived through so much, and times are so much different than when it was for you, and we don't understand what it was like when you were living. And I get all of that, but I think you guys have to understand whenever situations happen and you feel like that, right? Like it takes you back to when you were living through it.
I walked it. I did it.
You need to understand something. We want you to be healthy as parents, so we don't want you to spew. Okay, so when an event happens and you're just mad at your son because he just doesn't get it,
I didn't get it.
the wrong thing to do is to spew out, well, you don't know what it was like when I was your age and I had to go through this. And you have it so good. That's wrong.
Any wisdom you would have given at that point is now discounted.
It's
and
discounted.
It's not going to work.
And to be honest with you, what you're doing is you're dealing with your problems in front of your kid, and that's unhealthy.
Yeah.
That's good.
And so what you need to do is just take it, step back, process through that, and you don't want to spew, you want to share.
Right.
And so what that looks like is, because you need to give us your experience. We want to hear it.
That's right.
But it can't be in those tension moments.
Yeah.
You have to look for
Right.
opportunities later on to where you can healthily share perspective. Because when you spew it, it feels like you're telling me I'm wrong. I don't know what I'm thinking.
You're
all that
doing it-
stuff.
you're going to get it wrong.
smacking it in my face. But when you
Right.
share, it's super, super different. So parents of millennials, parents of Gen Zers, please take that.
Seriously.
Please, I'm not attacking you. I'm just sharing.
We hear
Yeah.
from the conversations that like what the kids are saying, what the young adults are saying.
good.
And this is the feedback that I think they want their parents to
Right.
hear.
Yeah.
Is that it's not that I don't
know.
care about your wisdom, your gray hair. It's not that I don't
Yeah.
care. It's just that the way that you do it, like
That's good.
I'm not learning from
Right.
it. It's not helping.
I think my parents modeled this really well.
Mm.
Growing up, when I was in my young adult 20s, they always pointed back to God's faithfulness in their life, and they always pointed to the Lord's hand in
Yeah,
every
that's good.
decision, every career step, every house that they bought. It wasn't perfect, and it was hard. As a kid, I remember some really hard challenges that they walked through.
Yeah.
But whenever I walked through my hard challenges, they would always point back, hey, the Lord used our job situation, this, and this. So every time that parents can talk about God's faithfulness in their lives
That's really
and
good.
give their children the hope of God's faithfulness in their lives,
Yeah.
solid.
Game changer.
Yeah.
It's gold.
Yeah.
Right? It's not about, because what we're trying to do, it's not about us as parents teaching our kids, well, I did this or I should have done that, so you don't do it. It's, no, wait, God did this in my life. God is so faithful. God's going to be faithful to you. And we can point our kids to God every time, not ourselves. It's going to teach them to get their own eyes off of themselves and point to God.
That's great.
That's so good.
Yeah.
What a powerful, just thing to impart onto your kids.
There's never going to be an answer better than we can point to Jesus, right? So I think when we're trying to talk to Gen Zs and millennials of getting their world outside of their own and their own careers, their own financial situations. Hey, if you are walking intimately with the Lord, you're going to be set.
Yeah.
It says, I know the plans I have for you.
Yeah.
And that verse in Jeremiah, I love it because it's not about just, hey, God has a special plan. God gave that word when his people were in exile.
Things are bad.
Right? They were in exile. They were in the wilderness.
Yeah.
So things were bad. They were not traveling their best lives
They
and
were not living in
Instagramming it.
stability.
No,
they were not reaching their
They
full
financial
potential.
were
security.
poor. Like, I mean, this is a word of
Yeah.
absolute hope of, hey,
sure.
I am going to set you up. Just be patient
That's
and
good.
stay with me.
Yeah, stay
Follow
the
me.
course. That's good.
And I think, that's going to be the word and the hope for everybody listening is stay with me.
Yeah.
Keep your eyes on me.
That's so good. And as you're saying that, I think the other big encouragement to, again, we're talking about these fears and we want to give you guys some hope. I think the other big thing is to understand and know it's not about and everyone knows this. We've heard it a million, at least I know I have heard it a million times, but it's not about the destination. It's about the journey.
Ooh.
And when we're constantly thinking,
That's good.
like even the job thing, if you're sitting on your hands waiting for the dream job to open up to then take the step, like I hate to tell you, like the job's going to be great, but you're still not going to be satisfied because what you define as, again, happiness or
Right.
comfortable means it's just that level is only going to keep increasing. And so there's going to be
That's
a
right.
constant disconnect.
Right.
You will never be satisfied or happy as long as you're defining it
that's
based
good.
off of that. Because, right now you're 20, travel, see the world. That could be super localized. Like, man, I just want to go to New York City. I want to go to Houston. I want to go here. But then you get a little bit more money. You get a little bit older. And it's like, well, actually, I want to travel to the West Coast. But actually, I want to go to Europe. And you get a little, you know what I'm saying? So, like, it always
That's good.
is going to keep on growing.
Yeah.
And so I think the sooner you guys can catch that I don't want to point any fingers because we're all
Right.
living through this.
Day to day.
We're all millennials and we're close to Gen Zers. But the sooner we can catch that it's truly about the journey with Jesus, like life with Jesus is what it's all about. I want to read this verse real quick. I know I'm getting a little ahead of ourselves,
Do
but
it. Yeah, it's good.
it's just so timely. This is what it says in Ecclesiastes 12:13, the very end of the book. And for those of you who know, Ecclesiastes is the great teacher. He kind of takes this insight from Proverbs, and Proverbs is kind of the ideal world of how wisdom is supposed to play out.
Yeah,
The wicked are going to perish, the righteous will prosper. And then, Ecclesiastes is kind of then testing this reality because last I checked, the wicked are actually prospering and the righteous are perishing. So there's a clear disconnect on this side of eternity. And so Ecclesiastes is this search for proving, trying to find satisfaction in wisdom, find fulfillment. And at the end, I love what he says. He says, now all has been heard. This is Ecclesiastes 12:13. All has been heard. Here's the conclusion of the matter. The quest for satisfaction. Fear God, keep his commandments. This is the duty of all mankind.
Right.
Another way of saying this is be in relationship with Jesus.
Right.
That's the conclusion. The conclusion isn't keep grinding your butt to get the dream job. It's not reach that level of financial stability so you can travel the world. It's not get in the right seat that then you can flourish like the beautiful butterfly you are. Like that's not the conclusion of the matter.
You are a beautiful butterfly.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But the conclusion of the matter is to do life with Jesus.
That's right.
And I know it sounds so elementary and simple, but the sooner we can catch that, and like what Paul says in Philippians 4, he's learned the secret of contentment in rough times and in good times. He can do all things through Christ who gives him strength. The sooner we can find that secret of contentment, whether I'm flourishing in my job or not, whether I have financial security or not, whether I'm there yet or not, the conclusion of the matter is to do life with Jesus. And that in itself, even just saying it is bringing us like a, you know what I'm saying?
I know. It's good.
Like a lightness.
Right. I have learned it so intimately in my life that when I am connected to the vine, day to day, my day to day is directed.
Yeah, that's good.
So I don't have to worry about, will I ever get the dream house? Will I get the perfect kids? Will I have the perfect marriage? No, I mean, it is a day to day, stay connected to the vine.
Yeah.
And then things flourish in my life. You got to water the roots. And your roots, if you're rooted down deep in the Lord, like the fears of entering into the real world vanish. I mean, they're still there, but we have the perspective of, hey, I'm not the one in control of my future.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Lord is, and he's going to direct the steps. There's a verse in, I think it's Exodus 33 something,
Mm-hmm.
but Moses is leading the Israelites through the wilderness.
Yeah.
And there's a point where he comes back down from the mountain and he is seeing all the debauchery.
Oh, yeah.
And
man.
the
Holy
Lord
crap.
he's fed up. And he says, I'm not going on the journey anymore. Take the people. And Moses says, no. You call me to walk this life, to walk this journey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going without you. And I think it's a really powerful, I call it a standstill with the
Yeah.
Lord of like, no, Moses stood up like, hey, if your presence does not go with me, I'm not going.
Yeah.
I want to encourage the young people and honestly, everybody listening, have that same heart. Lord, I'm not going on throughout this day
Yeah.
if your
Yeah.
presence
Not
isn't
without your
going for
presence,
me.
Yeah.
If you're not going to help me in my parenting or in my marriage, like take me home, right? Like, because I need
Yeah.
Jesus.
No, for sure.
And
Yeah.
I think it's with our pursuits of our future, of potential jobs, potential houses, potential everything. Like if we say, Lord, I am taking a stand. If your presence does not go with me, like let's call it quits because it is everything. And I think the sooner that our young people can get a hold of the presence of Jesus in
Yeah.
their lives,
Yeah.
their lives will change. They are
Yeah.
going to have the lives that other people go, hey, I may have it all, but they have something that I don't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
stay
and that's
connected.
and that's the key right there, right? Is again, I just keep feeling like contentment is what is the answer to all of
Content.
But
these.
really, ultimately, that can't be learned until you. Sorry, my mic. That can't be learned until you have walked through seasons where you've had to learn. Like it's not. You're not necessarily given
Right.
contentment.
Yeah.
You're learned it. You
That's
learn
good,
it.
Alyssa. That's
so
right.
like I think
Yes.
back to like quick blurb about my life, and I went to nursing school, extremely challenging. Came out like everyone's gonna want me because everyone needs nurses.
Mm-hmm.
And then my first job was I got a job at a hospital. It was supposed to be working with oncology patients, but I was pregnant, and so I couldn't work with all of the chemo. So instead, I ended up being the one that was kind of responsible for all the people who were post-op sex
wow.
change surgeries.
wow.
And so you talk about not having good necessary job satisfaction. I never even like really learned that in school. So
Right.
Come on,
it
Liberty.
just
Do better.
so I mean, like, yeah, it was a huge, like, very big culture shock from what I was used to.
Sure.
But can I just tell you, like, man, and it wasn't in this beautiful way. I mean, there were I was so anxious, just nursing as a
And
whole.
you were pregnant.
And I was pregnant,
And
I had,
There's some rough
I had
nights.
moved. It was so much. Anyway,
Right.
but through that season of that, I got to know the LGBTQ community better than I would have in any other experience in my life.
You
And
were
so
a
I look
light.
at that and you can say, that's terrible, get out of it, this isn't for me. And that's not at all to hate on that community, because my heart now is so soft and so much more understanding towards the struggles and the things that they're facing. But I would have never learned the contentment in the Lord that I have today had it not been I walked through
Sure.
that.
He
and
led
so
you right there.
it's almost like if you can just give yourself the understanding that you're actually probably not, the fear is that I'm not going to like what I'm doing, but it's almost like you're probably not going to like what you're doing,
Right.
except that,
Right.
and then you can
Yeah.
walk forward.
Yeah, no, and that takes such a humble understanding of, man, this isn't about us. And
Right.
trusting, if we're convinced God's leading our steps and like we're daily giving ourselves to him and saying, God, I trust you, I'm seeking you, like scripturally, we have no other reason but to believe we're exactly where we're supposed to be.
Absolutely.
If the Lord
Yeah.
leads
That
the
is
steps
such
of
a
those who
word.
delight in him,
That's good.
like go through your check. Am I delighting in the Lord, right? Am I seeking him? Am I submitting to his will? If you're doing those things, you have to believe you're where he has you.
Yeah.
And then, but if you're stuck on but I'm not where I want to be, you lose
Right.
sight. Like just
Yeah.
pivoting off that story of Alyssa, she could have lost a year of opportunity to grow and to make a
So
make a
good.
difference. So I just want to read one last scripture as we
That's great.
close this thing out. Also from Ecclesiastes, but I think, man, it's just so powerful
It's
and
good.
it's so fitting. This is in chapter 5. Okay, it's a little long, but I want to close with this. So this is what it says. This is what I have observed to be good. Okay, this is what's good. That it is appropriate for a person to eat, to drink, and to find satisfaction in their labor under the sun, during the few days of life God has given them, for this is their lot. Moreover, when God gives someone wealth and possessions and look at this, the ability to enjoy them, the ability to enjoy work, wealth, possessions, accept their lot and be happy with it, this is a gift of God. And so what we're searching for, guys, it's not found in the gift. It's not found in the job itself. It's not found in the way of living that you're trying to find.
That's good.
God has to open your eyes and mind to be able to actually enjoy what you're doing and where you are. And the sooner we can catch that, man, the freedom and relief that I can bring.
Content and grateful.
Yeah, come on.
It's good.
Come on.
That's good.
Boom. That's scary, but God's got answers for it.
He's got it.
That's so cool. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. Hope you're encouraged. Catch us next time as we